BlackRock hires a single father who works as a janitor, but a billionaire doctor gets jealous and won't let him go. The morning sun painted Miami Beach in shades of amber and gold as Ryan Walker guided his blue Harley-Davidson into the staff parking lot of the Melbrook Hotel. At 28 years old, he'd perfected the art of arriving before dawn, when the world still belonged to dreamers and those who cleaned up after them. He killed the engine, the rumble fading into the whisper of ocean waves 3 blocks away. His blue janitor's uniform was crisp, pressed the night before with the same attention to detail he applied to everything in his life. The yellow gloves tucked into his belt weren't a symbol of shame. They were a badge of honor. Ryan had learned long ago that dignity wasn't found in a job title. It was carried in how you performed the work itself, how you treated people, how you moved through the world. "Morning, Ryan," called Marcus, the night security guard, his voice echoing across the empty lot. "That bike sounds sweeter every day. You do something to her?" "Rebuilt the carburetor last weekend," Ryan said, patting the Harley's tank affectionately. The blue paint gleamed under the parking lot lights, a reflection of countless hours of maintenance and care. "She purrs like a kitten now. Smoother acceleration, better fuel efficiency." Marcus whistled appreciatively. "You got magic hands, man. You should open a shop, make some real money. I'd be your first customer." Ryan smiled but said nothing. Marcus didn't know about the other hands Ryan possessed, the ones that danced across keyboards late at night, analyzing stock patterns, studying market trends, executing trades that would make Wall Street veterans weep with envy. The hands that had just been offered a position managing $500 million for the most prestigious asset management firm in the world. The hotel lobby gleamed under crystal chandeliers, a monument to wealth Ryan serviced but didn't inhabit. Marble floors reflected light like mirrors. Original artwork adorned walls that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. He moved through it like a ghost, visible but unseen, present but ignored. That's how he preferred it. Invisibility granted him time to think, to observe, to learn. In 3 years of working here, he'd learned more about human nature and wealth dynamics than any business school could teach. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Ryan glanced at the screen. Another notification from his trading platform. His portfolio had gained another 8% overnight on a semiconductor play he'd positioned perfectly. He'd turned his modest savings of $12,000 into something approaching $200,000 over the past 3 years. Not life-changing money yet, but enough to prove he understood how markets breathed, how they moved, how they revealed their secrets to those patient enough to listen. "Ryan, thank God you're here early." Jennifer, the head housekeeper, rushed toward him, her tablet clutched against her chest like a shield. She was in her 50s, a woman who'd worked in hotels since she was 16, who knew every secret the Melbrook contained. "The presidential suite needs deep cleaning. We have a VIP checking in at noon. Someone very important, apparently. The GM himself called me at 5 a.m. to make sure everything was perfect." "I'll handle it," Ryan assured her, taking the suite access card she offered. "Any special requirements?" "Just make it sparkle. You know how you do." Jennifer paused, studying him with the maternal concern she'd developed over the years. "You okay? You look tired." "Didn't sleep well. Too much on my mind." "Well, try not to think too hard while you work. The presidential suite is a disaster. Someone had a party up there, and not the kind that makes housekeeping's job easy." The presidential suite occupied the entire top floor, 5,000 square feet of luxury that cost $15,000 per night. Ryan took the service elevator, his mind already wandering to the analysis he'd been running on semiconductor stocks. The chip shortage was easing, but most traders didn't understand the secondary effects yet. The companies that supplied the equipment to make the chips were positioned for massive growth, but they were flying under the radar. He'd bought calls on 3 of them 2 months ago. They were already up 40%. The suite door clicked open to reveal what could only be described as controlled chaos. Someone had hosted a party, an elegant one, judging by the champagne bottles and the absence of typical mess. But there were papers everywhere, scattered across the marble floor like autumn leaves, financial documents, spreadsheets, reports with official-looking headers. Ryan began methodically, starting with the living area. He'd developed a system over the years. Work left to right, top to bottom, miss nothing. As he collected discarded champagne flutes, crystal, he noticed, $300 a bottle, his eyes caught on one of the papers. Financial reports, hospital acquisition documents, pharmaceutical investment summaries. He shouldn't look. It wasn't his business. These were confidential documents, and reading them violated every principle of professional discretion. But old habits died hard, and Ryan's mind was trained to spot opportunity in data. His eyes scanned the numbers automatically, absorbing information with the speed of someone who'd spent years training himself to process complex financial information quickly. The reports belonged to Davenport Medical Group, a healthcare conglomerate that had been expanding aggressively over the past 3 years. The numbers were impressive, more than impressive. They were exceptional. Whoever ran this company understood leverage, timing, and risk management at a sophisticated level. The pharmaceutical acquisitions had been timed perfectly, bought at precisely the right moment in the approval cycle. The hospital purchases showed a pattern, targeting undervalued facilities in growing markets, restructuring them, and flipping them for substantial profits. This wasn't luck. This was skill. "I don't pay people to read my confidential documents." Ryan's head snapped up. Standing in the bedroom doorway was a woman who redefined every concept of beauty he'd thought he understood. She wore a royal blue blazer over denim shorts, an unusual combination that somehow worked perfectly on her athletic frame. Blonde hair caught the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, creating a halo effect that seemed almost unfair. Blue eyes assessed him with the sharpness of someone accustomed to evaluating threats and opportunities in split seconds. She was young, younger than he'd expected for someone running a medical empire. Mid-20s maybe, 24 or 25 at most. Her skin carried the golden tone of someone who actually had time for the beach despite building businesses. There was something in her posture, confident but not arrogant, powerful but not intimidating. She carried her wealth and success the way some people wore expensive perfume, naturally without announcement. "I apologize, ma'am," Ryan said, carefully placing the papers on the desk. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "I wasn't reading them in detail, I was moving them to clean the surface." You were absolutely reading them," she countered, but without heat. There was curiosity in her voice, maybe even amusement. "Your eyes were tracking the profit margins column. That's not casual observation. That's analysis. I've seen that look before. Usually in boardrooms, not from housekeeping staff." Ryan straightened, meeting her gaze directly. He'd learned early in life that looking away suggested guilt or shame, and he felt neither. "You're right. I apologize for the intrusion. The numbers caught my attention. I should have been more professional." "Why?" She moved closer and Ryan caught the scent of her perfume, something expensive and subtle. "Why did they catch your attention? Most people's eyes would glaze over looking at financial reports. Yours didn't. Because they're exceptional. Whoever structured your pharmaceutical acquisitions last quarter understood market timing perfectly. You bought right before the FDA approvals came through on 3 separate compounds. That's not luck. That's insider knowledge or truly sophisticated analysis." Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, definitely, but also recognition. The look of someone who just discovered something unexpected and potentially valuable. "You understand pharmaceutical market dynamics?" "I understand patterns," Ryan said carefully. "Markets all move according to similar principles: supply, demand, timing, psychology. The rest is just different applications of the same fundamental concepts. Pharmaceuticals follow the same patterns as tech stocks or commodities or real estate. You just need to know what signals to watch for." She moved into the room, her expensive shoes, Louboutin he noticed, recognizing the red soles, clicking against marble. Up close, she was even more striking, but it was her eyes that held him. They were intelligent, curious, slightly lonely despite all the power they contained. He'd seen that look before, in his own mirror during the darkest nights when success felt hollow. "I'm Celeste Davenport," she said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm when he took it, businesslike but with warmth underneath. "Ryan Walker." Her skin was soft against his calloused palm. "I should finish the cleaning so you can enjoy your suite, Miss Davenport. Wait." She gestured to the papers spread across the desk. "What would you do differently? With the portfolio, I mean. If you were managing it, what would your strategy be?" Ryan hesitated. This was dangerous territory. He was a janitor offering financial advice to a billionaire. The absurdity of the situation wasn't lost on him. "Miss Davenport, with all respect, I'm a janitor, not a financial advisor. I'm not qualified to—" "Humor me," she interrupted. "Consider it market research. I like getting perspectives from unexpected sources. Some of my best business insights have come from people outside the traditional finance world. So tell me, what do you see that I might be missing?" He glanced at the documents again, his mind automatically processing the information, organizing it into patterns and possibilities. You're overexposed to traditional hospital infrastructure. The model that made you rich over the past 3 years is dying. The future of healthcare isn't centralized, it's decentralized. Urgent care clinics, telemedicine platforms, home health services, mobile diagnostics. The Melbrook Hotel model actually translates well to this. Luxury medical tourism combined with cutting-edge treatment. Create destinations for procedures that insurance doesn't fully cover, but you'd need to pivot before the insurance reimbursement models collapse completely, which they will within 18 months. Celeste's expression was unreadable, but her posture had shifted slightly, leaning in, engaged. That's a very specific timeline. 18 months. What makes you so certain? Policy cycles are predictable if you know what to watch for. The current administration's healthcare reforms will phase in by next March. The new reimbursement formulas will cut hospital payments by an average of 17%. Anyone still heavily invested in traditional hospital overhead by then will hemorrhage money. But if you pivot now, you can position yourself ahead of the curve. Sell the underperforming facilities to competitors who don't see it coming yet. Reinvest in the distributed care model, and you'll triple your market position while everyone else is scrambling to adapt. And you know this how? There was genuine curiosity in her voice now, mixed with something else. Respect, maybe. Where does a janitor learn to analyze healthcare policy and market trends? Ryan smiled slightly. I read, a lot. Everything I can get my hands on. Financial journals, policy papers, quarterly reports, market analysis. And I pay attention to patterns. I've been tracking healthcare stocks for 2 years. I saw what happened with the last major reform cycle. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it rhymes. The signs are all there if you know what to look for. She studied him for a long moment, and Ryan felt weirdly exposed under that gaze, as if she could see through the janitor's uniform to something else underneath. Not just his analytical skills, but something deeper. His ambitions, his dreams, his carefully constructed plan to escape the life circumstances had dealt him. Do you have time for coffee? Celeste asked suddenly. I want to hear more of your analysis. Consider it a consultation. Ma'am, I have 7 more suites to clean before my shift ends. Jennifer will. I own the hotel, she said simply. I'm giving you time for coffee. Jennifer will understand. Consider it part of your duties today. Consulting with a guest. 15 minutes later, they sat on the suite's private balcony, the Miami coastline spreading before them like a promise. Celeste had made the coffee herself. Apparently, she didn't trust hotel room machines, which Ryan found oddly endearing, and it was remarkably good, rich and smooth, with hints of chocolate and nuts. So, Ryan Walker, the philosophical janitor, she began, settling into the chair across from him. What's your story? And don't give me the sanitized version people put on job applications. I can get that from HR files. Tell me the real story. Not much to tell, Ryan said, sipping the excellent coffee. I work here. I maintain my motorcycle. I live simply. Pretty boring, actually. Bullshit. The profanity surprised him coming from someone so polished, so put together. Nobody who can analyze market dynamics like you just did is merely living simply. You're planning something. You have goals, ambitions, strategies. What are they? What are you building toward? Ryan sipped his coffee, weighing his words carefully. Something about Celeste Davenport invited honesty, or maybe demanded it. Those blue eyes saw through pretense like glass. I trade stocks, options, futures, some cryptocurrency. I've been doing it seriously for 3 years. Successfully? Very. I've turned $12,000 into almost $200,000. Celeste's eyebrows rose slightly. That's a 1,600% return. That's not luck. That's skill. So why are you still cleaning floors? It was the question everyone would eventually ask if they knew. The question that revealed how little most people understood about genuine learning. Because trading isn't about the money, not primarily anyway. It's about understanding systems, markets, psychology, probability, risk management. I needed stable income to fund my real education, which isn't happening in a classroom. The janitorial work provides that while requiring minimal mental energy, which I preserve for analysis and trading. Plus, it gives me something most traders don't have. What's that? Perspective. Working here, I see wealth up close. I see how it changes people, how they spend it, how they lose it. I see the loneliness of it, the isolation, the way money solves some problems and creates others. That understanding makes me a better trader because I understand what money actually means to people. Fear and greed aren't abstract concepts to me. They're emotions I watch play out every day in how guests treat staff. Celeste leaned back, reassessing him with new eyes. That's either brilliant or insane. Maybe both, Ryan admitted. My father used to say that wisdom comes from unusual perspectives. He was a philosophy professor, taught me that wealth of mind mattered more than wealth of wallet. Used to say, past tense. He died 5 years ago. Cancer. The old pain was still there, but dulled now like a scar instead of an open wound. My mother went when I was 19. Car accident. So it's been just me for a while now. I'm sorry, Celeste said, and Ryan could tell she meant it. Losing parents young changes you, makes you either stronger or bitter. You sound like you're speaking from experience. My father died 3 years ago, heart attack at 52. He built the Melbrook Hotel from nothing, and I inherited it the day after I turned 21. I was in medical school at the time, completely unprepared to run a business empire. Had to figure it out fast or lose everything he'd built. But you didn't lose it, you expanded it, created a medical empire alongside it. Because I refused to be defeated by circumstances I didn't choose, she said fiercely. Some of the polished veneer cracked, revealing steel underneath. Everyone expected me to fail. Sell the hotel, go back to medicine, let someone else handle the real business, but I'm stubborn. Or stupid. The line is pretty thin sometimes. What's your goal? Ryan asked, genuinely curious. You've already succeeded beyond most people's wildest dreams. What drives you now? Celeste looked out at the ocean, and for a moment, her mask slipped completely. Honestly, I don't know anymore. I started because I had to prove something. To myself, to my father's memory, to everyone who doubted me. But now, I've proven it. I've built more than he ever did, and I'm lonelier than I've ever been in my life. The admission hung in the air between them, vulnerable and raw. Ryan recognized it for what it was. A moment of genuine connection, the kind that happened rarely in life. Success without meaning is just expensive emptiness, he said softly. Exactly. She turned to him and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. You understand that. Most people don't. They think money solves everything, but it just amplifies what's already there. If you're lonely, wealth makes you more isolated. If you're insecure, success makes you more paranoid about losing it. Do you like music at the beginning of videos? Ryan did. Celeste had jazz playing softly through the sweet speakers. Miles Davis, he recognized, and it created the perfect backdrop for their conversation. The saxophone wove through their words like a third presence, filling comfortable silences with melancholic beauty. They talked for another hour, and Ryan found himself more engaged than he'd been in years. Celeste wasn't just beautiful and rich, she was genuinely intelligent, with opinions shaped by experience rather than privilege. She'd gone to medical school at Johns Hopkins, finished her residency in internal medicine, then abandoned it all when her father died. The hotel had been struggling, over-leveraged, months from bankruptcy. She'd learned business by necessity, made brutal decisions, fired people who'd worked for her father for decades, restructured everything from the ground up. I was supposed to save lives as a doctor, she said quietly. Instead, I save balance sheets. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. Do you ever regret not practicing medicine? Ryan asked. Every single day, she admitted. But I help more people this way. Davenport Medical Group serves 3 million patients annually across 12 states. As a doctor, I might have helped a few thousand in my entire career. The math is simple, even if the emotional equation isn't. Ryan understood that kind of sacrifice. Sounds lonely, though, being responsible for that many people, that much money. It is. Her blue eyes met his, and something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, of shared isolation. The thing about success is that it's incredibly isolating. People either want something from you or they're intimidated by you. Genuine connection becomes rare. Almost impossible, actually. Is that why you're having coffee with your janitor? You're not my janitor. You're a person who happens to clean floors while planning a Wall Street takeover. There's a difference. She paused, studying him. And yes, that's exactly why. Because you don't want anything from me. You're not impressed by the money or the position, you just talk to me like a human being. Do you have any idea how rare that is? The moment hung between them, fragile and unexpected. Then Celeste's phone rang, shattering the intimacy. She glanced at the screen and sighed. My CFO. I have a board meeting in an hour. I need to prepare. Ryan stood, suddenly aware that he'd been sitting here for 90 minutes while his work sat undone. I should finish the suite anyway. Thank you for the coffee, Miss Davenport. Celeste, she corrected. Just Celeste. And Ryan? She stopped him at the door. Thank you for the conversation. It's been refreshing. Most people don't challenge me intellectually. They just tell me what they think I want to hear. Anytime you need a janitor's perspective on healthcare economics, I'm available. She laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face from beautiful to luminous. I might take you up on that. Actually, I will take you up on that. Are you working tomorrow? Every day except Sundays. Same time tomorrow then? I'd like to continue this conversation. Ryan felt something shift in his chest, like a door opening that he'd kept carefully locked. I'd like that too. Over the following 3 weeks, an unusual pattern developed. Celeste stayed at the Melbrook Hotel more frequently than seemed necessary for someone who had multiple residences, always in the presidential suite, always generating just enough mess to require Ryan's specific attention. They would talk, sometimes for 10 minutes before her schedule pulled her away, sometimes for hours when she cleared her calendar entirely. Ryan learned things about Celeste that probably weren't in any news article or business profile. She was divorced at 23, a brief marriage to a venture capitalist named Preston Montgomery who'd wanted a trophy wife rather than a partner. He'd been 42 to her 22, sold her a vision of partnership that evaporated the moment the ring was on her finger. The divorce had been expensive and bitter, with Preston trying to claim he'd contributed to her business success, despite doing nothing but criticize and undermine her. He wanted me to be his beautiful, accomplished wife who deferred to him on everything important, Celeste explained one evening. But I'd already been running a medical empire for a year when we met. I wasn't capable of being small for anyone's ego. The marriage lasted 8 months. The divorce took 14. She lived alone in a waterfront mansion she'd bought to prove something to herself, that she could afford the kind of property that would have been unimaginable to her middle-class upbringing. But the house felt empty and echoing. She rattled around in 8,000 square feet of luxury, eating takeout in her gourmet kitchen, sleeping alone in a master suite larger than some apartments. I thought success would feel different, she admitted. I thought there would be some moment where everything clicked and I'd feel satisfied. But it's like chasing the horizon. No matter how far you go, it's always just as far away. Ryan shared pieces of himself too, gradually, carefully. His mother had died when he was 19, killed by a drunk driver while driving home from her nursing shift. His father, a philosophy professor at Miami-Dade College, had never really recovered. He died 5 years later, technically from lung cancer but really from grief and loneliness. Ryan had been 24, suddenly alone in the world with a philosophy degree, no clear career path, and an inheritance that barely covered the funeral expenses. That's when I started trading seriously, Ryan explained. I'd been dabbling in college using student loan money I probably shouldn't have risked. But after Dad died, I had this clarity. I didn't want to live a conventional life. I didn't want to spend 40 years in a cubicle waiting for retirement. I wanted to understand how the world actually worked, how wealth was created and destroyed, how systems operated beneath the surface most people never examined. So you became a janitor, Celeste said, without judgment. So I became a janitor, Ryan confirmed, because it paid enough to live on, required minimal mental energy, and gave me time and freedom to pursue my real education. Most people thought I was crazy or lazy or unmotivated. They didn't understand that I was being strategic. What's your goal, though? What happens when you've learned enough? Ryan had never told anyone about the BlackRock application. It felt too audacious, too unlikely. But something about Celeste made him want to be honest. I applied to manage capital for BlackRock. It's the most difficult position to obtain in quantitative finance. They receive 10,000 applications per year and hire maybe 5 people globally. That's ambitious for anyone, regardless of background. That's ambitious for a janitor with a philosophy degree, Ryan corrected. But I'm qualified. I've built a track record over 3 years that proves I can generate consistent alpha across multiple market conditions. My Sharpe ratio is in the top 98th percentile of retail traders. My max drawdown is lower than most hedge funds. I understand markets at a level that most people with fancy degrees don't, because I learned by doing rather than by memorizing theories. Have you heard back? Not yet. The lie came smoothly. He'd been carrying the secret of his acceptance for 2 weeks now, unable to process it, unable to decide what it meant. The offer sat in his email like a bomb waiting to explode his carefully constructed life. They talked about everything: philosophy, markets, life, purpose. Celeste challenged his assumptions about wealth, and he challenged hers about meaning. They debated the ethics of capitalism, the role of business in society, whether success without personal connection constituted failure. "I built everything I have," Celeste said one evening, "but I did it by sacrificing everything else. No real friends, just business associates and networking contacts. No family. I have cousins I haven't spoken to in years. No relationship. Preston destroyed my ability to trust that anyone wanted me, rather than my money. I wake up in a mansion that costs $30,000 a month to maintain, and I'm lonelier than I was when I was a broke medical student eating ramen." "You could change that," Ryan pointed out. "You have resources. You could take time off, travel, pursue hobbies, build real relationships." "With whom?" "Everyone I meet wants something. Investors want money. Employees want favor. Men want a trophy or a sugar mama. How do I trust that anyone's interest is genuine?" Ryan didn't have an answer for that, but he understood the problem intimately. His own isolation was self-imposed, but no less real. He'd built walls around himself, focusing so intensely on his goals that he'd forgotten how to connect authentically with other humans. "Maybe that's why we can talk like this," he said finally. "Neither of us wants anything from the other. This relationship, whatever it is, exists outside our normal calculations." "Is it a relationship?" Celeste asked. "What would you call this?" Ryan considered. "I don't know. Friendship feels inadequate. Mentorship doesn't fit either direction. Maybe we're just two lonely people who found each other in an unexpected place." "I like that," Celeste said softly. "It's honest." The night the official offer came, the detailed contract from BlackRock with signatures and salary figures and start dates, Ryan sat in his small apartment staring at the screen, feeling the weight of a decision he hadn't expected to be complicated. The position was everything he'd worked toward: managing a $500 million portfolio, working with the best quantitative minds in finance, a salary of $350,000 plus bonuses that could double that. BlackRock was offering him validation that his unorthodox path had merit, that he wasn't crazy, that his instincts and analysis were genuinely world-class. But accepting meant leaving Miami, leaving the Mel Brock Hotel, leaving conversations on balconies with a woman who made him reconsider what he actually wanted from life. He didn't sleep that night, just sat at his desk watching the cursor blink in the response email he couldn't seem to write. The next morning, Ryan arrived at the hotel to find Celeste waiting in the lobby. She wore her royal blue blazer-like armor, but her eyes were red-rimmed, makeup not quite hiding evidence that she'd been crying. "My office. Now," she said, her voice tight with barely controlled emotion. Confused and concerned, Ryan followed her to the administrative wing he'd only cleaned, but never entered as anything but staff. Her office was sparse but elegant, functional rather than ostentatious. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Miami Beach. The desk was clear except for a laptop and a single photo frame facing away from him. She closed the door and rounded on him. "Were you going to tell me?" "Tell you what?" "That BlackRock hired you. That you're leaving." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. "That everything we've built here over the past month was temporary and you knew it the whole time." Ryan's stomach dropped. "How did you?" "I have friends in finance," she said bitterly. "Your name came up in conversation yesterday at a fundraiser. The janitor who beat 10,000 applicants. Everyone thinks it's a cute human interest story. The working class hero making good. They don't know that the hero in question has been having coffee with me every morning, letting me think." She stopped, pressing her fingers to her temples. "When were you planning to mention it? The day you left? A goodbye note? Or were you just going to disappear?" "I was going to tell you," Ryan said quietly. "I needed time to process it myself first, to figure out what it meant." "Process what? You got your dream job, congratulations. You're escaping the floors you never belonged on in the first place." The bitterness in her words was cutting. "I should have known better than to think." She stopped again, turning away from him. "Than to think what?" Ryan asked softly. "Than to think this was real," she said, her back to him. "Than to think you saw me as more than a rich woman to pass time with before your real life started." "Celeste, that's not..." "Then what is it?" She spun back to face him, and tears were streaming down her face now. "Explain it to me, Ryan. Explain how spending every morning with me for 3 weeks while knowing you were leaving isn't a betrayal. Explain how letting me care about you..." Her voice broke completely. "Explain how I'm supposed to feel right now." Ryan's heart was hammering in his chest. "I didn't plan for this to get complicated." "Well, it is complicated," she shot back, "because somewhere between analyzing my financial reports and drinking coffee on my balcony and talking about philosophy and loneliness, I started to care about you. And I don't care about people. I can't afford to. Caring makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability destroys empires. I learned that lesson the hard way with Preston. But you, she pressed her hands to her face. You made me forget that lesson. You made me think maybe connection was possible again. And now you're leaving. Ryan moved toward her instinctively, but she held up a hand, stopping him. Don't, she whispered. Don't touch me right now. I need to think clearly, and I can't do that if you touch me. What do you want me to say? Ryan asked, feeling helpless in the face of her pain. This position, it's everything I've been working toward for years. It validates every unconventional choice I've made. It proves that I was right to take this path. And what about us? The question hung in the air, loaded with implications neither of them had fully acknowledged until this moment. What about what we've been building here? I don't know, Ryan admitted. I don't know what this is, Celeste. I don't know if it's real, or if it's just two lonely people finding temporary comfort. I don't know if it could survive in the real world outside of these morning conversations. But I know that walking away from you feels wrong, and I know that staying would mean giving up everything I've worked for. So you choose the job, she said flatly. I understand. I've made the same choice 100 times. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Celeste's voice had hardened now, the vulnerable moment passing, the CEO reasserting control. You have an opportunity that most people would kill for. You'd be insane to turn it down for whatever this is. I won't ask you to make that sacrifice. But you want me to, Ryan said, understanding suddenly. You want me to stay. Celeste was silent for a long moment, her chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Yes. God help me, yes. I want you to stay. I want you to choose this. Choose us. Over Wall Street glory. But I can't ask you to do that. It wouldn't be fair. What if you did ask? Ryan's pulse was racing now, everything suddenly crystallizing. What if you made me an offer I couldn't refuse? What do you mean? I mean that BlackRock will take my mind and my time and my soul and give me money in return. But what if there's something more valuable here? What if you offered me a different path? Celeste's eyes widened, understanding dawning. Are you serious? I'm saying that if you wanted to make me a counteroffer, I would listen. I'm saying that maybe the opportunity I've been chasing isn't the one that will actually make me happy. I'm saying that these past 3 weeks have meant more to me than I've admitted to myself. She stared at him, emotions warring across her face. Then, with visible effort, she pulled herself together, straightening her blazer, wiping her eyes. When she spoke again, it was with the cool authority of a woman used to making billion-dollar decisions. I'm offering you a partnership, she said. Director of Financial Strategy for Davenport Medical Group. You would oversee all investment decisions, portfolio management, and capital allocation for the entire enterprise. You'd have a team of analysts reporting to you, direct access to me and the board, equity in the company. The base salary would match BlackRock's offer, $350,000, but the equity package would be worth substantially more over time, and you'd be building something that matters, healthcare infrastructure that actually helps people, not just managing money for wealthy investors. Ryan felt like the air had been knocked out of his lungs. You're serious. I'm always serious about business, and this is business. I need someone who thinks like you, who understands markets the way you do, who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm wrong, someone who won't be intimidated by my position or my wealth, someone who sees opportunities I'm missing. And the personal component? Ryan asked carefully. The caring you mentioned? Celeste's mask slipped again, vulnerability showing through. We'll figure that out, or we won't. But at least we'll have the chance. At least I won't spend the rest of my life wondering what might have happened if I'd been brave enough to fight for something I wanted. It was manipulation, Ryan knew. Brilliant manipulation wrapped in genuine feeling. She was using her resources to keep him close, leveraging her wealth to compete with BlackRock. It should have angered him, should have felt like a violation of what they'd been building. Instead, it moved him, because beneath the manipulation was something real, fear of loss, hope for connection, the raw human need to not be alone. She was offering him not just a job, but a different vision of what his life could be. I need to think about this, he said finally, his mind reeling. How much time? 48 hours. I need 48 hours to process this and make a decision I can live with. Celeste nodded, her composure reassembling like armor. Okay, 48 hours. But Ryan? Her voice softened. Whatever you decide, I need you to be honest about why. Don't stay because you feel obligated. Don't go because you feel trapped. Make a choice you can live with. Choose the path that's right for you, regardless of how I feel about it. And if I choose to go, pain flashed across her face, then I'll wish you well and mean it. And I'll remember these 3 weeks as a beautiful moment that reminded me I'm still capable of feeling something. Ryan walked out of her office with his mind spinning, his heart pounding, his entire carefully constructed plan in ruins. In the hallway, he nearly collided with Jennifer, the head housekeeper. "Everything okay?" she asked, noticing his expression. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just processing some news," he managed. "Well, process it on your break. The ambassador's suite needs attention and you're 20 minutes behind schedule." Ryan went through the motions of his work mechanically, his thoughts elsewhere. He cleaned rooms without seeing them, his hands performing familiar tasks while his mind wrestled with the biggest decision of his life. By the time his shift ended at 3 p.m., he'd made a decision, not about the job, but about what he needed to do next. He needed perspective, needed to think clearly, needed to consult with the one person whose advice had never steered him wrong. He rode his Harley to Miami Memorial Gardens, parking where he always did, near the entrance that led to the older section where his father rested. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful, dappled with afternoon sunlight filtering through oak trees. His father's grave was simple, a flat stone with basic information. No flowery epitaph, no grand statement. Just his name, dates, and a single line. He taught with wisdom and loved without condition. Ryan sat on the grass beside the headstone, feeling the warmth of sun-baked earth through his jeans. "Hey, Dad," he said softly. "I could use some of your philosophy right about now." The breeze rustled through trees, carrying the scent of cut grass and flowers. "I got the job, the one I've been working toward for 3 years. BlackRock. They're offering me everything I thought I wanted. Validation, salary, prestige, the chance to prove I'm as good as I think I am. You'd be proud, I think. Your son, the janitor, managing $500 million for the most prestigious firm in finance." A bird sang somewhere nearby, clear and pure. "But there's this woman, Celeste. She's complicated and brilliant and lonely and successful, and probably too good for me. She wants me to stay, offering me a different path, a different vision of what my life could be. Director of financial strategy for her medical empire. Same money, better equity, work that actually helps people, and a chance at something personal that I didn't even know I wanted until it was suddenly possible." Ryan traced his father's name on the cold marble. "You always said that wealth of mind mattered more than wealth of wallet, that the richest people were those with meaningful connections and purpose beyond themselves. But what if I could have both? What if I could have the career success and the personal connection? Is that naive? Am I just setting myself up for disaster by mixing business and personal feelings?" No answer came, of course. Just the whisper of wind and the distant sound of traffic and the peaceful quiet of the dead. "I think you'd like her," Ryan continued. "She asks the kind of questions you used to ask, the ones that don't have easy answers, the ones that force you to examine what you actually believe. She challenges me, makes me want to be better, makes me think about what better even means. Is it chasing prestige in New York? Or is it building something meaningful with someone who sees me clearly?" He sat there for over an hour, working through the decision in his mind. His father had been a philosopher, yes, but also a deeply practical man. He'd taught Ryan that big decisions weren't made with pure logic or pure emotion. They required both, balanced carefully, examined from multiple angles. By the time Ryan left the cemetery, he hadn't found certainty, but he'd found clarity. He understood what he wanted. The question was whether he had the courage to choose it. That night, Ryan did something unusual. He went to a bar, not to drink heavily, but to be around people, to remind himself that the world extended beyond his own thoughts. He sat at the counter of a dive bar near his apartment, nursing a single beer, watching sports highlights he didn't care about. "You look troubled, son," said the bartender, an older man with kind eyes. "Woman troubles?" Ryan laughed despite himself. "How'd you guess? It's always woman troubles at your age. Or money troubles. Sometimes both." "Both," Ryan admitted. "A woman who's offering me a job and a relationship and a completely different life than I planned. Sounds good to me. What's the problem?" "The problem is I had a different plan, a goal I've been working toward. Taking her offer means abandoning that." The bartender shrugged, wiping down the counter. "Plans are good, goals are good, but you know what's better? Being happy. I spent 30 years chasing what I thought I wanted, making plans, hitting goals. Got divorced twice in the process. Finally figured out that what I actually wanted was right in front of me the whole time. My third wife, running this bar, talking to people like you. It's not glamorous, it's not what I pictured, but it makes me happy. That counts for something. How do you know the difference between happiness and settling? Settling feels like giving up. Happiness feels like coming home. Which does your woman feel like? Ryan considered the question carefully. Coming home, he said finally. Terrifying, unexpected, completely unplanned coming home. Then there's your answer. The bartender smiled. The heart knows before the head admits it. Ryan finished his beer, left a generous tip, and walked back to his apartment. He sat at his laptop, opened the email from BlackRock, and began typing a response. His fingers flew across the keyboard, words coming easily once he'd made the decision. Then he paused, finger hovering over send, and thought about Celeste's face when she'd asked him not to go. The tears she'd tried to hide, the vulnerability beneath her CEO armor, the loneliness they shared. He pressed send. Then he opened a new email and began composing a message to Celeste. The next morning, Ryan arrived at the hotel before dawn. He went straight to the presidential suite, bypassing his usual routine. Celeste opened the door on his first knock as if she'd been waiting. She was in casual clothes, yoga pants and an oversized sweater, without makeup, her hair pulled back simply. She looked younger like this, less intimidating, more real. You didn't have to come so early, she said. You still have... I'm staying, Ryan interrupted. I'm accepting your offer. Director of Financial Strategy, Partnership, whatever you want to call it. I'm staying. Celeste's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes instantly filling with tears. Ryan, you can't make this decision based on feelings that might be temporary. BlackRock is... Hello, my friend. How was your day today? Is everything okay? Ryan said in English, smiling slightly at her shock. That's what you texted me yesterday, right? Checking in, making sure I was all right, showing you cared even when you were trying to give me space to decide. That's not fair, she whispered, using my own words against me. I'm not using them against you. I'm telling you that I noticed, that your care means something to me, that somewhere between analyzing your financial reports and drinking coffee on your balcony and talking about philosophy and purpose, I stopped thinking about this as a temporary situation. I started thinking about it as a possibility, as a path I didn't know I wanted until it appeared. But BlackRock is a corporate machine that will use my skills efficiently and discard me when someone younger or cheaper comes along. That's how those places work. I know that. You're offering me something different. Partnership, growth, equity in something I help build. Work that actually matters, healthcare that helps real people, not just making rich people richer. The personal component is a bonus, not the deciding factor. But I won't lie and say it's not important. Are you sure? Celeste's voice was barely above a whisper. Because if you stay and then regret it, if you resent me for this, I'm not sure about anything except that I'd regret walking away from this, from you, from what we might become. I'd regret spending the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I'd been brave enough to choose the harder path. Celeste's tears spilled over, running down her cheeks unchecked. I'm not easy to care about. I'm controlling and workaholic and emotionally unavailable most of the time. I have walls I don't know how to take down. I'm going to frustrate you and challenge you and probably make you want to quit 100 times. I'm a janitor who talks to his dead father in cemeteries and spends weekends rebuilding motorcycles, and just turned down Wall Street for a woman I've known 3 weeks. We're both disasters, but at least we'll be disasters together. She laughed through tears, the sound bright and genuine. We're going to fuck this up. Probably, but at least we'll fuck it up together. Celeste closed the distance between them, her hands cupping his face. For a moment, they simply stood there, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. Then she kissed him, soft at first, tentative, then deeper as 3 weeks of tension and connection and unspoken feelings crystallized into this single moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Celeste rested her forehead against his. I haven't felt this terrified in years. Good terrified or bad terrified. I'm not sure there's a difference. Ryan wrapped his arms around her, feeling her relax into his embrace. Through the balcony windows, Miami sparkled under morning sun, full of promise and uncertainty in equal measure. Two people from different worlds, finding unexpected commonality in shared loneliness and vulnerability. So what happens now? Celeste asked, her voice muffled against his shoulder. Now we figure it out, day by day, no grand plans, no perfect strategies, just two people trying to build something real. I'm terrible at no plans. I know, it's going to drive you crazy. You're going to drive me crazy. That too. They stood there as the sun rose higher, warming the balcony, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Two people at the beginning of something that could be extraordinary, or disastrous, or both. That afternoon, Ryan composed his official email to BlackRock, declining their offer. He wrote carefully, professionally, thanking them for the opportunity while explaining that he'd accepted a position that aligned better with his long-term goals. He didn't mention Celeste, didn't mention the personal calculation, just clean, professional final. His finger hovered over send for only a moment before he pressed it. There was no dramatic music, no cosmic sign that he'd made the right choice, just the quiet click of a decision made. Celeste read over his shoulder. Any regrets? Ask me in a year. That's not reassuring. It's honest. She kissed his temple. I can work with honest. They spent the rest of the day planning his transition into the new role. Celeste was in full CEO mode now. Strategic, organized, thinking 5 steps ahead. She outlined reporting structures, introduced him via email to key team members, scheduled meetings with department heads and board members. You start in 2 weeks, she said. That gives you time to give proper notice to housekeeping and for me to prepare the executive team for your arrival. There will be questions. People will be skeptical of my janitor boyfriend becoming director of financial strategy. I'm your boyfriend now? Aren't you? I'm honestly not sure what we are, Ryan admitted. But boyfriend works for now. We need ground rules, Celeste said, shifting into business mode. Parameters for how we handle the dual relationship. Professional and personal can't blur too much or it will destroy both. They spent the next hour drafting what they jokingly called the Relationship Risk Management Protocol. Boundaries around work discussions at home, guidelines for managing conflicts, procedures for recusal when personal interests might conflict with business decisions. It was unromantic and practical and absolutely necessary. Most people starting a relationship don't create exit strategies, Celeste noted, reviewing their document. Most people don't mix a C-suite romance with a medical empire, Ryan countered. We need to be smarter than most people. Fair point. By the time Ryan left that evening, he felt both excited and terrified in equal measure. He'd turned down Wall Street for a woman he barely knew and a job that might destroy him. It was either the bravest or stupidest decision of his life. His phone buzzed with a text from Celeste. Thank you for choosing this, for choosing us. Whatever happens next, I'm glad you're here. Ryan smiled, typing back. Me too. See you Monday for my last shift as your janitor. Don't call yourself that. You were never just a janitor. What was I then? Someone waiting for the right opportunity. I'm glad I could provide it. Ryan's final 2 weeks as a janitor were surreal. He cleaned rooms knowing each swipe of the mop was bringing him closer to a completely different life. His colleagues noticed nothing different, which somehow made it even more bizarre. He was days away from managing hundreds of millions of dollars, and nobody knew except him and Celeste. On his last day, Jennifer pulled him aside. I heard you got promoted. Some big corporate position. Director of something. Director of Financial Strategy, Ryan confirmed. So you were always more than just a janitor. There was no resentment in her voice, just curiosity. No, he said seriously. I was exactly a janitor. Being a janitor taught me patience, humility, attention to detail, how to be invisible and observe people. Those things made me a better analyst, a better trader, a better strategist. It's not about being more than. It's about being fully present in whatever role you inhabit and learning everything it has to teach you. Jennifer hugged him, surprising them both. Don't forget us little people when you're making millions. Impossible. The little people taught me everything that matters. That evening, Celeste hosted a small gathering in the presidential suite. Just the senior management team of Davenport Medical Group and a few board members. Ryan wore a suit for the first time in years, feeling both uncomfortable and oddly appropriate in the expensive fabric. Everyone, Celeste announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone used to commanding rooms. Meet Ryan Walker, our new Director of Financial Strategy. He comes to us from an unconventional background, but I assure you his qualifications are impeccable. Ryan has demonstrated extraordinary market analysis skills and strategic thinking. He'll be overseeing all investment decisions, portfolio management, and capital allocation strategy. His first major project will be restructuring our hospital acquisition model and positioning us for the shift to decentralized care delivery. The introductions went smoothly enough, though Ryan caught curious glances and whispered conversations. He was used to being underestimated, It was practically his superpower at this point. Let them doubt. He'd prove himself soon enough. The CFO, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, cornered him near the bar. So, Ryan, Celeste says you understand the healthcare reimbursement landscape. Walk me through your thesis on why we need to pivot away from traditional hospital infrastructure. Ryan launched into his analysis, using Patricia's skepticism as fuel. He outlined the policy changes coming, the demographic shifts, the technology disruptions, the financial pressures that would make traditional hospital models unsustainable. He spoke for 10 minutes, fielding questions, providing data points demonstrating the depth of his research. When he finished, Patricia was nodding slowly. That's actually very compelling. You've thought about this more thoroughly than our external consultants have. External consultants aren't incentivized to give you uncomfortable truths, Ryan said. They're incentivized to tell you what you want to hear so you keep paying them. I'm incentivized to make sure this company succeeds, because my equity package depends on it. Patricia laughed. I think I'm going to like working with you, even if Celeste did hire you under somewhat unusual circumstances. The circumstances aren't relevant, Ryan said firmly. The results will be. Judge me on what I deliver, not on how I got here. Fair enough. After the gathering, when only he and Celeste remained, she poured 2 glasses of wine. You handled that brilliantly. Patricia was trying to test you and you more than passed. They think I'm your charity case or your boy toy, Ryan said bluntly. Maybe both. Let them think whatever they want. You'll prove otherwise within 6 months. Your analysis is stronger than anyone's on that team. And once they see your results, the speculation will die. They clinked glasses and Ryan felt the full weight of everything that had changed in just a month. A month ago, he'd been a janitor with secret ambitions. Now he was director of financial strategy for a multi-billion-dollar medical conglomerate, dating the CEO, making decisions that would affect thousands of employees and millions of patients. I want to establish something before we officially begin working together, Ryan said seriously. If this doesn't work out, the relationship part, it can't affect the professional part. Your company is too important. The work is too important. The patients you serve deserve better than having their care jeopardized by our personal drama. We need an agreement that personal complications won't compromise business decisions. Celeste studied him with newfound respect. You're absolutely right. We should have clear parameters. They spent the next hour expanding their relationship risk management protocol, adding clauses about professional boundaries, conflict resolution procedures, what happens if they break up. It was unromantic and clinical and absolutely necessary for protecting both the relationship and the business. Most people starting a relationship don't create detailed exit strategies, Celeste noted, reviewing their document for the 3rd time. Most people don't mix a C-suite romance with a medical empire and millions of lives depending on sound business decisions, Ryan countered. We need to be smarter than most people. We need to think about what happens when emotions run high and make decisions now, while we're rational, that will follow even when we're not. God, you're practical. Someone has to be. You lead with emotion more than you admit. I do not. She stopped, reconsidering. Okay, maybe I do, but that's why we balance each other. By the time Ryan left that night, he felt both excited and terrified in equal measure. He'd made the leap, changed his entire life trajectory for a woman he barely knew, and a position that could either launch him into legitimate success or destroy him completely. As he rode his Harley through Miami's empty streets, the city lights blurring past, the ocean scent carried on night wind, Ryan thought about the path not taken. Black Rock would have been safe, prestigious, validating. This path, the one he'd chosen, was none of those things. It was risky and unconventional and would subject him to endless scrutiny, but it was his choice, made with eyes open, consequences understood, possibilities embraced. His phone buzzed with a text from Celeste. Can't sleep, too excited about Monday, too nervous about everything, too grateful you chose this. Ryan smiled, typing back. Can't sleep either, too aware that I just rewrote my entire life plan in a month. Too hopeful about what we're building. See you Monday morning, partner. Partner, I like that. Good night, Ryan. Good night, Celeste. Ryan pulled into his apartment complex, parking his Harley in its usual spot. As he climbed the stairs to his unit, he thought about his father's grave and the conversation they'd had under stars and silence. I chose her, Dad, he whispered to the night. I chose the riskier path, the one with more heart and less certainty. I think you'd approve. I think you'd say that's what it means to really live, choosing possibility over safety, connection over isolation, building something meaningful over just accumulating wealth. Inside his apartment, Ryan opened his laptop to begin preparing for Monday. He had presentations to create, strategies to outline, a medical empire to help transform. The challenges ahead were enormous, restructuring a multi-billion-dollar organization's core business model, while navigating a relationship with his boss that could explode spectacularly at any moment. But for the first time in years, Ryan Walker felt genuinely alive, not because he was escaping something or proving something, but because he was running toward something better, something real, and sometimes that made all the difference in the world. A message from the channel creator. Dear friends watching this video, I want to take a moment to wish you all a Merry Christmas, even though we still have some time before the holidays arrive. May God bless and protect each one of you and your families during this special season and always. May your days be filled with peace, joy, and hope. Thank you for being part of this community, for sharing these stories with me, and for allowing me to be a small part of your day. Now I want to ask you something personal that I hope will spark memories. What was your first love? Do you still remember them? That special person who made your heart beat faster for the very first time? Who changed how you saw the world? Comment below and share your story with us. Sometimes remembering where we started helps us appreciate where we are now. Ryan's first month as Director of Financial Strategy exceeded even Celeste's expectations. He restructured the hospital acquisition portfolio, identifying 12 underperforming facilities to divest and 7 high-potential targets in emerging markets. His analysis saved the company $43 million in the first quarter alone. The executive team's skepticism evaporated quickly. Patricia Chen became his strongest advocate, openly praising his unconventional insights in board meetings. Even the most traditional board members couldn't argue with results that spoke louder than credentials. But success came with complications. On a Tuesday morning in his 6th week, Ryan found an envelope on his desk. Inside was a handwritten letter on BlackRock letterhead, signed by the firm's managing director. Mr. Walker, we respect your decision to decline our initial offer. However, we believe you underestimate your value to our organization. We're prepared to offer you a portfolio management position at $500,000 base salary, double the equity package, and full relocation support. This offer expires in 7 days. Some opportunities don't come twice. Don't let this be one of them. Ryan stared at the letter, his heart pounding. $500,000. It was more money than he'd ever imagined earning, more than his father had made in his entire academic career, enough to change everything. His office door opened. Celeste walked in, closing it behind her. They'd been careful about maintaining professional boundaries at work, but something in her expression told him this wasn't a business visit. You got a letter from BlackRock, she said. It wasn't a question. How did you? I have people who watch for things like this. Corporate intelligence isn't just about competitors. She moved to his window, looking out at Miami's skyline. What are they offering? More than before, significantly more. Are you considering it? Ryan stood, moving beside her. I don't know. A month ago I would have said no immediately, but now, Celeste, that's $500,000 base salary. That's security I've never had. That's everything you thought you wanted. She finished quietly. I understand, I do. And if you decide to take it, I won't stand in your way. Not again. You'd just let me go? What choice do I have? Her voice cracked slightly. I can't compete with BlackRock forever. I can't keep raising your salary every time they make a better offer. At some point, you have to choose what you actually want, not what I can bribe you to accept. The words stung because they were partially true. That's not fair, isn't it? She turned to face him, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. I manipulated you into staying the first time, used my resources and my feelings and probably your guilt about hurting me. But manipulation isn't sustainable. Eventually, you'll resent me for it. Or worse, you'll stay out of obligation rather than desire. Ryan wanted to argue, but he couldn't find the words, because she was right. The question he'd been avoiding for 6 weeks suddenly demanded an answer. Was he staying because he wanted to, or because he felt trapped by his choice? That evening, Ryan rode his Harley to Miami Beach, parking where sand met pavement. He walked to the water's edge, letting waves wash over his boots while he wrestled with the decision that refused to stay resolved. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Ryan Walker? The voice was professional, female, confident. This is Sarah Mitchell from BlackRock's executive recruitment team. I wanted to personally extend our revised offer and answer any questions you might have. I received the letter. Then you know we're serious about bringing you on board. We don't make offers like this lightly. Your trading record is extraordinary, and your recent work at Davenport Medical has only reinforced our assessment of your capabilities. You've been watching my work? We watch everyone we're interested in. Your healthcare portfolio restructuring was brilliant. Exactly the kind of strategic thinking we value. But Ryan, and I hope you don't mind my directness, we're concerned you're limiting yourself. Davenport Medical is impressive, but it's still a regional player. At BlackRock, you'd have global reach, unlimited resources, and opportunities that simply don't exist elsewhere. Ryan was silent, listening to waves crash against shore. I know about your relationship with Ms. Davenport, Sarah continued. Corporate intelligence, as I'm sure you understand. And I want to be clear, we're not asking you to choose between career and personal life. We're asking you to choose your future. If Ms. Davenport truly cares about you, she'll understand that you can't sacrifice your potential for anyone, not even her. I'll think about it, Ryan said finally. 7 days, Ryan. After that, this opportunity closes permanently. Think carefully about what you're giving up. The call ended, leaving Ryan alone with the ocean and his thoughts. He didn't go home. Instead, he rode to Miami Memorial Gardens, sitting beside his father's grave as stars emerged overhead. I need your wisdom again, Dad, he said softly. BlackRock is offering me everything I thought I wanted. More money than I dreamed of. Validation, prestige, the chance to prove I belong in that world. But taking it means leaving Celeste, leaving what we're building together, and I don't know if I'm brave enough to walk away from that. The wind whispered through trees, carrying no answers. What would you do? Ryan asked the darkness. Would you choose the safe path or the meaningful one? Would you take the money or follow your heart? As he sat there, a memory surfaced, something he'd forgotten for years. He was 12 years old, sitting in his father's office after school. His father was grading papers, and Ryan was reading, and the silence was comfortable and complete. Dad? He'd asked. How do you know if you're making the right choice about something important? His father had looked up, smiling that gentle smile that Ryan missed every day. You don't know, son. Not really. But here's what I've learned. The right choice usually isn't the easiest one. It's the one that aligns with who you want to become, not just what you want to have. Ask yourself, in 10 years, which decision will you be proud of? Which version of yourself do you want to meet when you look in the mirror? Ryan stood, placing his hand on the cold marble. I think I know what you'd say. I think you'd tell me that wealth without meaning is just expensive emptiness, that success without connection is just organized loneliness, that I should choose the path that makes me better, not just richer. The cemetery offered no confirmation, but Ryan felt a clarity settling over him. Not certainty, he'd never have that, but clarity about what mattered. The next morning, Ryan arrived at Celeste's office before anyone else. She was already there, standing at her window with coffee in hand, staring at the sunrise. I'm not taking the BlackRock offer, he said without preamble. She turned, surprise and hope warring on her face. Ryan, you don't have to decide right now. You should take the full 7 days. I don't need 7 days. I needed one night to remember why I made this choice in the first place. He moved toward her. BlackRock is offering me money and prestige. You're offering me purpose and partnership and the chance to build something that actually matters. They're offering me a position, you're offering me a life. But $500,000 is just a number, Ryan interrupted. A big number, yes, but still just a number. What we have here, this partnership, this relationship, this work, that's real, that's meaningful, that's worth more than any salary BlackRock can offer. Celeste set down her coffee, moving toward him. Are you absolutely sure? Because once you decline this offer, they won't ask again. This door closes permanently. Then let it close. I'm choosing this door. I'm choosing us. She kissed him then, deep and grateful and relieved. When they broke apart, both were smiling through tears. I have something to tell you, Celeste said softly. Something I should have mentioned before, but I was afraid it would seem manipulative or strange. What is it? She walked to her desk, pulling out an old photograph. Do you recognize this? Ryan studied the image. It showed 2 children at a beach, a blonde girl, maybe 8 years old, and a dark-haired boy around the same age. They were building a sandcastle together, laughing at something outside the frame. I don't understand, Ryan said slowly. That's me, Celeste pointed to the girl. And that's you. This was taken 20 years ago at Miami Beach. Our families were there the same day. We played together for hours, built sandcastles, shared ice cream. You told me about your father being a philosophy professor. I told you about my father's hotel. We were just kids having a perfect beach day. Ryan's mind reeled. I don't remember this. I barely remembered it myself, until I found this photo last week while going through old family albums. But Ryan, I think that day mattered. I think meeting you, even as children, planted something in both of us. A memory of connection, of possibility, of someone who saw us clearly even then. That's why you felt familiar, Ryan said, pieces clicking into place. That first morning in the presidential suite, I felt like I'd known you before, but I couldn't place it. We were always meant to find each other again, Celeste whispered. The universe gave us a second chance, and I'm so grateful we didn't waste it. Ryan pulled her close, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. The childhood connection, the adult reunion, the choices that had brought them here. I'm declining BlackRock today. Final answer. No more doubts. I love you, Celeste said suddenly. I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I do. I love you, Ryan Walker. I love your mind and your integrity and your refusal to be anything but exactly who you are. I love you too, Ryan said, and meant it completely. I love your ambition and your vulnerability and the way you challenge me to be better. They stood there holding each other as Miami woke up around them. Two people who'd found each other twice, once as children building sandcastles, and again as adults building something far more meaningful. That afternoon, Ryan called Sarah Mitchell at BlackRock. I appreciate the offer, he said professionally, but I'm declining. My work at Davenport Medical aligns with my values and long-term goals. The salary difference doesn't outweigh the meaningful impact I'm making here. That's disappointing, Sarah said. You're making a mistake, Mr. Walker, but I respect your decision. For what it's worth, the door is closed now. We won't make another offer. I understand. Thank you for the opportunity. As he hung up, Ryan felt a profound sense of peace. Not certainty. Life never offered that. But peace in knowing he'd chosen authentically, aligned with his values, following his heart rather than just his ambitions. 6 months later, Ryan and Celeste stood on the presidential suite balcony, where they'd had their first real conversation. Davenport Medical Group had just been named one of America's most innovative healthcare companies. Ryan's restructuring had increased company value by 40% while improving patient outcomes across every metric. Any regrets? Celeste asked, echoing their conversation from months ago. None, Ryan said honestly. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. With a woman who's still controlling and workaholic and emotionally complicated. With a woman who challenges me every day to be better. Who builds empires while maintaining her humanity. Who had the courage to fight for what she wanted even when it seemed impossible. They kissed as the sun set over Miami. Two people who'd chosen meaning over money. Connection over prestige. Love over fear. Sometimes the greatest success isn't measured in dollars or titles. Sometimes it's measured in quiet moments on balconies, in partnerships that challenge and support, in choices that align with who you want to become, rather than just what you want to have. Ryan Walker had learned that lesson well, and he'd never been richer,